Hi again, this is Pastor Tim, and welcome you to this final day of this devotional. And I pray again that God will use these scriptures to encourage you and to build up your faith. Although this is the final day of studying these verses, I hope it's not the end of practicing them. Peter has urged us to make every effort to add these qualities to our faith, and this needs to be an ongoing effort. Now we've covered the first six, and today we want to look at the last two. Now, these two are related, and they both deal with how we treat others, and they're both types of love. The word for brotherly kindness in Greek is Philadelphia. We know that as the city of brotherly love. And it's included in the love called agape, which we'll look at in a few minutes. Hebrews 13:1 says, "Keep on loving one another as brothers and sisters." Now these words, one another, are mentioned over 60 times in the New Testament. This is emphasized because of its importance, but also because it's often difficult to do. We all know other Christians who are not easy to love. Maybe you've heard this little poem by Ray Stedman. To dwell above with the saints we love, oh, that will be glory. But to dwell below with the saints we know, well, that's another story. It's not always easy to love certain people, but God encourages us to do so. In 1 Peter 1:22 it says, "Now that you have purified yourselves by obeying the truth, so that you have sincere love for your brothers, love one another deeply from the heart." I heard a story about this young boy whose sister needed a blood transfusion, and the doctor explained that she had the same disease that the boy had recovered from 2 years earlier. Her only chance of recovery was a transfusion from someone who had previously conquered the disease. Since the two children had the same rare blood type, the boy was an ideal donor. "Would you give your blood to Mary?" the doctor asked him. Johnny hesitated. His lower lip started to tremble. Then he smiled and said, "Sure, for my sister." So soon the two children were wheeled into the hospital room, and Mary pale and thin, and Johnny robust and healthy. Neither spoke, but when their eyes met, Johnny grinned. As the nurse inserted the needle into his arm, Johnny's smile faded. He watched the blood flow through the tube. With the ordeal almost over, Johnny's voice, slightly shaky, broke the silence. "Doctor, when do I die?" Only then did the doctor realize why Johnny had hesitated, why his lip trembled when he agreed to donate his blood. He thought giving his blood to his sister would mean giving up his life. Our relationship with Jesus and the presence of the Holy Spirit in our lives helps us to show love and grace to others, even when it's difficult or involves sacrifice. These verses in Philippians 2 make that clear. If you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from His love, if any fellowship with the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and purpose. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility consider others better than yourselves. Each of you should look not only to your own interests, but also to the interests of others. That moves us to the final quality, agape love. Last but not least, agape love is doing whatever is necessary to achieve the highest good for someone. And that highest good may not always be what they want. Sometimes it involves tough love. The best description of agape love is found in 1 Corinthians 13. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. I think this quote from C.S. Lewis. He says, I am often, I believe, praying for others when I should be doing things for them. It's so much easier to pray for a bore than to go and see him. Now, of course, it's good to pray for others. It's good to meet their needs by giving money or gifts. But often what people need is relationship, time together with someone who values them. John 15:12, Jesus said, My command is this, love each other as I have loved you. And the context of this verse starts in chapter 13, where Jesus showed his love and service by washing the disciples' feet. Even though he was their Lord and Master, he humbled himself and he served them. He valued them and invested in them. When you love something, you find joy spending time investing in it. And my dad, he loved golf. He would golf as often as possible, but when he didn't have time to get to the course, he would read golf magazines. He'd watch golf on TV. He'd practice. If he'd have anything in his hands like a broom or anything, he'd pretend it's a golf club and he'd practice his swinging. He loved it, so he invested time in it. When we love other people, we are going to want to invest time into their lives. This often depends on our motivation. Take, for example, a son who's washing the family car because the parents asked him to. He's kind of acting out of obedience or duty. Compare that to the son washing the car that he's using for his first date. Now he's washing the car out of love. Our motivation for helping people should not just be obedience or duty. It moves beyond that to an agape love, valuing the other person. Romans 13:8 is wonderful. It says, let no debt remain outstanding except the continuing debt to love one another. Look at this. He who loves his fellow man has fulfilled the law. Love is the highest quality. And just because it's last on this list, as I said, it's not the least important. It's probably the most important. Well, what is something you've learned through this devotional? I encourage you again to please use the comment section below to share that. And I encourage you to come back to these verses every once in a while and read through them and ask God to help you to memorize these verses. I hope this mind map will help you get that picture in your mind. I'll leave a link to the mind map in the description. Thank you again for joining me on this devotional, and I pray that God will bless you and that all of us could continue to grow in our spiritual lives.